As the current economic crisis causes family budgets to tighten around the region, it is not only the human members of the family who are affected. The Humane Society of the Harrisburg area has been getting an increasing number of calls from people who say they want to give away their pets because they can't afford to feed and take care of them. In an attempt to help these people keep those animals in their homes, the East Shore Shelter has been offering a pet food bank and low-cost vaccinations for animal owners in need. When you enter the Humane Society shelter on Grayson Road, you'll see a bright lobby accented with skylights and hanging plants, but you'll also smell the distinctive aroma of a building housing a lot of animals, and you'll hear a cacophony of ringing phones and loud barking. Cages filled with cats line the hallways. A dark gray cat, its broken jaw reset after an accident, seems to sport a crooked grin as he sticks his paw between the bars in a gesture of welcome. Kelly Hitz, the director of public relations for the shelter, is one of the staff members who gave up their private office space to house more animals. Several staff members, along with 2 black cats and a lively border collie mix named Maggie, share the office. As Hitz talks about how the economy is affecting the shelter, calculators click, doors slam, and photocopiers whir in the background.
Right now, specifically, we're getting more animals, at least requests for taking in animals because of the economy.
What people can't afford to keep them?
People are struggling to care for their animals. It's coming down to feeding their family or feeding their animals, and they're coming to us and saying that they need help or that they've chosen to give up their animal. And we, unfortunately, because we're so overcrowded, can only take in, a very few, small percentage of those animals that people are trying to give up. So we do offer some alternative programs like a pet food bank and some low-cost veterinary services for those people who are struggling to take care of their animals. And, we get people coming in tears. They don't want to give up their animal, but they really are left with no other choice. So it's pretty heartbreaking.
I asked Hitz about some of the phone calls she has been receiving from pet owners in need.
We get about 10 calls a week from people who are wanting to give up their pets.
Because of the economy?
Yes,
or
specifically, yeah. I just had a gentleman call me this morning, and he said his wife is disabled, and he just got laid off, and they're running out of dog food, and he said, okay, I'll be right over, because I explained that the pet food bank was available.
Hitz went on to talk about how vital donations are in running the food bank and how people qualify to use the service.
We're run solely on donations here, and that includes the food for the food bank. So all the food that we feed our animals here in the shelter is Science Diet food. We get it donated from Science Diet. So any food that's donated from the public that's not Science Diet, that's the food that goes into our food bank. We can't always guarantee that we have food. It's really dependent on what is donated to us. It's a no questions asked food bank. If someone comes to us and says, look, I'm really struggling, I need some help until I get back on my feet, we'll give them food. It's very progressive, and we actually work with a program called Animeals. Animeals delivers food in conjunction with Meals on Wheels to elderly people with pets.
Wow.
A lot of elderly people who have pets will share their Meals on Wheels food with their pets because they can't get out to get food or they can't afford food. So Animeals gets some of the food from our pet food bank and then in turn delivers it to people, elderly people.
And you also have some discounts on veterinary healthcare?
Not really vet care. It's a low-cost vaccination and microchipping clinic. It's just basic vaccinations and microchips as well as flea treatment at a much reduced cost. But it is administered by a licensed veterinarian. Our vet will give them the vaccinations that we need, and they're $8 each or 2 for $15. Really, anyone is welcome to take advantage of them. I bring my pets to them, but they're really geared specifically to serve people who are struggling to pay for traditional vet care and regular vet visits and things like that.
Do you find that there are more people using those services, both the food bank and the clinics?
Definitely the food bank because of the economy. The clinics and the food bank have kind of been gaining steam more because of word of mouth. People are just finding out about the clinics. Generally, the clinics are very, very well attended, but with the food bank, we have seen a big increase in people contacting us.
The pet food bank and other services are important because it would be hard for the shelter to accommodate many more animals surrendered by their owners. The shelter currently houses about 550 to 600 animals.
We are always facing a space issue because we don't choose to put animals down just because we're crowded. And we don't euthanize adoptable animals for lack of space or length of stay here, which is why we're so overcrowded, because they stay as long as it takes, which is why there's 2 cats and a dog in this office. They're simply everywhere. We only euthanize an animal if it's too sick or too aggressive for us to adopt out. We don't always have space to take in needy animals. And that's why we created the food bank and the low-cost clinics, because a lot of times we have to say, well, we can't actually take your animal, but we can offer you these kind of secondary services to help you keep the animal.
Kennel staff to the front for a cat, get acquainted.
Some of the 35 paid staff members usher visitors into the inner sanctum filled with hundreds of homeless animals. Today, a fluffy little dog is going home with an elderly couple, while a big brown mutt with sad eyes still languishes in her cage after 2 years of waiting. The calls keep coming in, and the shelter keeps helping those having trouble feeding their pets.
Of about 10 calls that we get a week, we actually take in to the shelter about 2 of every 10, and the rest we refer to our food bank. And that's simply because we don't have anywhere to put the animals here, and we do not want to put animals down to make space for more animals and just kind of proliferate that cycle. And a lot of people are in a position where all they need is a little boost, like some vaccinations and a couple bags of food. And if that's all they need, we don't want your animal. In an ideal world, our shelter would be empty. So if we can help an animal stay in the home, that's certainly what we're going to do.
Keep in mind that the shelter relies on volunteers and donations to continue operating.
Of our $1.7 million budget, it's almost entirely funded by donations. So, in that vein, we need a lot of help. We have nearly 600 animals, a staff of 35 who cleans, feeds, medicates, works at the front desk, that kind of thing. And then we always are in need of more volunteers. We have about 150 volunteers to 200 volunteers who do things like go to events and walk the dogs and play with the cats. Even someone who's interested in doing something as simple as stuffing envelopes, we can definitely put them to work. So there's, volunteering is a great way to get involved. Obviously, because of our funding, donating is a way to support if you don't want to come here. A lot of people get very emotional and find that they just can't volunteer because they feel very bad for the animals. So donating is another way to get involved.
And I noticed you need kitty litter right now?
Yeah. About the day after Thanksgiving, we actually completely ran out of litter. Wow. And that's another thing. All of our supplies are donated. So when we run out of something, we either need to go buy it, which we did have to go buy a small amount, which is tough because it's not budgeted for. Or we call out to the community, which is what we did. The message is that we can only do what the community supports. If the community doesn't want to donate to an animal shelter, then your community probably won't have an animal shelter.
For more information on volunteering at or donating to the Humane Society, visit the shelter's website at www.humanesociety.hbg.org. There, you can also see animals available for adoption and find information about the pet food bank and the low-cost vaccination and microchip clinics. You may also visit the shelter at 7900 Grayson Road or call 564-3320.
Most other states have government-run animal shelters. And here in Pennsylvania, there are no government-run facilities. So basically, stray animals and homeless animals have to rely completely on private organizations like ours, which, if they're not funded by donations, a lot of us could go under at any minute. I think it's too soon to tell what the real impact's going to be. Animal welfare is lucky in a way that it's one of the things that no matter what, people are going to love animals. So, even though we may struggle, it's likely that we may not struggle as much as some other organization. So people just love animals. But nonprofits like ours and all nonprofits, we are bracing ourselves for what may be coming down the line. We just don't know.
Meow, meow, meow. Yeah, buddy, meow, meow, meow.